Hello and welcome to Teach It Like You Mean It, a podcast tailor made for intermediate phase educators right here in South Africa. My name is Margaret Botman, and our goal here is to share practical ideas, strategies, and resources that can make us all better educators. Whether you're listening in on your way to school, during a school break, or while getting things done at home, this podcast is for you. In today's episode, we are thrilled to welcome Siasanga Ali, a passionate primary school music teacher. Siasanga has a background in teaching creative arts. She understands how incorporating movement and rhythm can engage young learners and make learning an enjoyable experience. Let's dive into how music can transform educational engagement. Hi, Siasanga. How are you?
Hi, Margaret. I'm good, thanks. And yourself?
I am great, and I'm really excited to, have you on the podcast, and we'll be having a very interesting topic around music, which is our first time on this
Yes.
podcast.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to
Mhm.
share my experience and thoughts.
So what led you into teaching and particularly music teaching?
Um, I didn't choose exactly like
Yeah.
choose to be a music teacher. I was allocated to the position to be a music teacher. At first, I was quite scared because I had no experience at all in
Mm,
teaching music or studying music at all. So, but I did have a background in teaching me performing arts as an extramural. So I was quite positive about this experience. So I just went into it head on
mm.
with the positive attitude. And with the support from my supervisors, HODs, it was a success this term.
So have you fallen in love with being a music teacher now?
Yes, I actually have. I was scared at first, but then I enjoyed every moment. Yeah.
So how do you incorporate movement into your music lessons?
So the music lessons usually include performing arts concepts such as dance. So
Yeah.
during this term, we have been focusing on movements in warm-ups and cool downs. So when I'm
Mm,
teaching learners a new song, I create a simple interpretive movement to make the song understandable and memorable. And another way I would use movement in my music lessons, during the process of teaching the song, I
mhm.
would use hand gestures, like movement hand gestures, to help the learners understand the pitch variations of their vocals and their vocal runs.
I think when it comes to creative arts, whether it's music, drama, or even
Yeah.
dance, um, I think it's one of those subjects that require so much discipline, and not only from the teacher, but
Yes.
also from the learners. And so I'm
Mhm.
particularly interested in knowing what specific activities do you find most effective for engaging younger learners, just merely because younger learners can struggle a bit with discipline.
The most effective activities in movement for music lessons would be activities that focus on what's related to the learners. So, for example, right now we were focusing on dancing activities that explore different indigenous dances from different cultures. Considering the diversity in my class, it was the most successful activity in terms of engagement.
Mhm.
So far, we explored the African dance and Bollywood dances, and the learners have been given a platform. They're given a chance to share their own traditional dances. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and I think, South Africa is very rich in
Ye-
terms of like
Yes.
performance and
Yes.
our different cultures. Um, However, I know that with our learners, you might find there's that, one or two or even three learners who are not so interested in like creative arts related, or maybe they are just not confident enough in those subjects.
Yeah.
How do you encourage learners who are less inclined to participate in physical activities?
So I do not put pressure on any learners, from the older learners to the small learners. I never put pressure. I'm
Yeah.
always patient. I let them go at their own pace. If
Okay.
they feel like today, they feel like singing only, they don't feel like moving and dancing, that's fine. But usually I try to create a space where they feel free to express themselves. So if they feel like, okay, this dance today is like a video game, I tell them, okay, that's fine. Let's pretend as if we're playing a video game. So they feel more confident because now they have
Mm,
the narrative, they have the control on how to engage in the content, you know? So
mm,
it's something that I'm also still learning myself how to build
mm,
their confidence. But I always build a safe space for the learners, make sure they feel free and comfortable. I
mm.
never put them in a position where they feel pressured. I always try to put them in groups where they feel like when they see their peers and their friends participating, they're more comfortable as well.
Um, I like how you touched on allowing the learners to go at their own pace. And that
Yes,
also got me thinking that, with other subjects, we've got this thing where it's like you've got to differentiate lessons to
yes,
accommodate high ability learners, the middle ability, and the lower ability
yes.
learners. So I'm interested in knowing now with music and with movement, how do you tailor activities to cater to the different learning styles?
Okay, so I try my best to not make it quite difficult for the smaller kids. We make
Hmm.
it fun. I apply a lot of play learning. We do a lot of fun activities. We play a lot during our lessons. So it's easy, it's not too much pressure for you to think about the logic behind the whole lesson, Like, oh, I
Mm,
must step like this, I must sing like that. So I make it a little bit more playful, and I add a little bit of challenges for our gifted learners. I add a little bit of challenge like, can you make your own rhythm? Can you make your own dance? Can you write a song for us? For the learners who like being challenged. And for the learners who are struggling, I just make it a little bit
mm.
more playful and less serious and less pressure for them.
Um, okay, yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. But now when it comes to marking, because in as much as it is a creative arts subject, but there are marks allocated to our learners performing and being able to engage in these activities, how
Yes.
then are you able to ensure that every learner is awarded a mark that represents the effort that they put into their movement piece or their music, um, based on the different learning styles and their learning ability?
So with the lower grades, in terms of assessments and marking, we focus on group work
Okay.
because it's just it's a new year, it's a new
Mm,
term, and considering the younger kids, it's also a new subject to them. They've never done this before, so
yeah.
I focus on group work, so performing in groups for assessments. That's
Hmm.
how I mark them. And then for the older kids, grade fours, because I teach grade fours,
Yeah.
I work with the another teacher who teaches visual arts.
Hmm.
So when we test them on a cycle test or an exam, we combine visual arts and music. That's how they're assessed, and that's how we mark them. And in their activity books, there are worksheets we work with when we're learning musical instruments, musical notes, and all of that is combined with practical work.
So, do you
Yeah.
include any cross curricular connections through movement and music?
Yes, I do. I usually use a lot of math. I use a lot of counting and mathematics, especially when it
Yeah.
comes, yeah, especially with the singing. Hey,
Hmm.
when I was teaching, I remember I was teaching vocal, vocal runs, and I was teaching voice scales. Your do, re, mi, fa, sol, la.
Yes,
So
yes,
then
yes.
they didn't understand. They didn't understand, "Oh, what is she saying?" So I was like, okay, hold on. Let's start with 1, 2, 3. Let's start
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
basic numbers and let's go on to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as we were singing, we're singing the numbers instead of the do, re, mi, fa. So we're singing
Hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, So I use a lot of numbers in teaching, singing, most sing.
You know what? This has me laughing, but also it has me so interested in actually being in your class and seeing this in
Yes.
action. So, what challenges do you face when incorporating movement into your teaching?
Usually it's when a learner refuses to participate because they
Yeah.
don't feel like it, you know? Like,
Mm.
for instance, I did have a learner who was quite self-conscious about how he moves. Like, "No, Miss Ali, I feel like people are looking at me and they're gonna laugh at me." So I tell them, no, man, you don't have to be perfect. Miss Ali's not perfect herself. And I
Yeah.
usually do it with them. So that's usually one of the challenges I face when learners refuse to participate because of their confidence. They don't have the confidence to participate with their peers. So that's usually my challenge with them.
Yeah. So how do you approach rather how has your approach to movement changed over the years in your teaching career?
So far it started off quite rocky because myself it's a new thing to me as well. It started off rocky,
Yeah.
but I approached it with a positive attitude, and
Hmm.
that same attitude reflected onto the learners.
Yeah.
And it whenever you feel good as a teacher, your learners feel good. And when they see that Miss Ali is participating and she's dancing and she's moving, they
Mm.
also want to do it themselves. They participate with me so that they builds more of their confidence. So it has improved. It has quite improved towards the end of the term as well. With
Mhm.
the with my grade fours, it has improved very well.
Okay. Well, in closing this session, I want to ask what advice do you have for new teachers, novice teachers, new graduates entering the teaching profession who are wanting to incorporate movement into their music lessons?
My advice is to always start small.
Hmm.
Don't try to start big. Don't expect these kids to be professional dancers or, yeah, always start small, be patient, participate with the learners to make
Yeah.
them feel more comfortable, make the lessons fun. It's a creative arts lesson. It has to be fun, make it fun, and create a safe space for the learners to express themselves.
Yeah.
That's pretty much my advice from my experience.
Okay. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners before we close off this session?
No, so far is have fun as a teacher. Hey, music teaching is amazing. That's all I have to say. It's
Oh,
a fun.
thank
It's a, yeah. It's less of a job, more of a you enjoy it yourself. You enjoy it yourself.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Siasanga. Thank you for joining us in this enriching
Thank you. Thank
conversation.
you so much.
And of course, thank you to our listeners for listening in. We hope you gained valuable insights into incorporating dynamic music activities into your classrooms. If you're looking for more resources to support your teaching journey, visit Twinkle Educational Publishing at www.twinkle.co.za. We help those who teach.